I've been scuba diving now for just over 26 years. In that time frame, it's unfortunate, but I've seen a lot of changes taking place. And I feel like you shouldn't be able to see that level of change take place in that short period of time. The ocean is becoming uninhabitable. And I think that's a huge warning sign for us all that something drastic is changing to our planet.
When I did climate science in 1975, we were talking about global warming, climate change, and in 50 years, if we don't do something, we're going to see all these impacts of rising temperature, rising sea level, but that is happening right now. It's on our doorstep and we do have to take urgent action.
It's a bit frustrating and disheartening when you don't feel like you can make a difference and you're just watching it happen before your very eye, in real time as well. You'll dive a dive site, you'll go back to it, and it'll be more urgent and less vibrant.
Now more than ever, I know that we as humans have the capability of having that positive impact. I think we all know what needs to happen. It's just doing it now. As a little kid, I've always been really attracted to the ocean. Maybe it's the unknown, this whole other world existing beneath the waves. And I remember when I was about 6 or 7 years old, I went for my first snorkel. And instantly, I was immersed into this entirely other world that I didn't know existed other than in books and documentaries. And I just remember popping up and just saying to my mum, how do I do that forever? That was it for me. I took all the necessary courses and subjects at school, went through uni, and it immersed me to this amazing world that I could now understand through an amazing education. But I still wanted more. I quickly realised that science was fantastic and I was a scientist at heart, but when you publish a scientific paper, your reach is quite small. However, when you capture images and share that with others, you are able to access millions of people. And to me, that was a turning point. If I was going to save the world, if I was going to have an impact on trying to do something positive, then I felt like media was the key to show how amazing our planet is, but also what's at stake.
The Galapagos Islands has been made very famous by Charles Darwin and his visit and great evolution theories, but I tell people all of those stories have been going on here at Lord Howe Island for millions of years and are still going on. And this island is so accessible for people to come and observe and be aware of these great evolution stories, and also be aware that conservation can have great outcomes.
Lord Howe Island is quite an interesting little oasis in the middle of the ocean. Mammals didn't arrive until humans arrived out here. We used to have horned turtles, land turtles on the island. Nowadays primarily it is a bird island.
You really have like two big bodies of water, and Lord Howe Island is positioned right on that frontier in between those two spaces. Half of the year, tropical warm water pushes down from the north, and for the other half, cooler temperate water pushes up. And so what you have underwater is this absolute mixture of temperate and tropical species, and so it means that Lord Howe Island has this absolutely amazing assemblage of wildlife that kind of doesn't really occur anywhere else.
Over the last 40 years, there's been amazing conservation based around removing the feral animals. Rats were on the island for 100 years, devastating the wildlife, and since those measures we've seen massive rebounding wildlife. Lord Howe Island could be the best conservation island in the world. This is one of my favourite parts of the island here, this beautiful Kentia palm forest. It's so shaded, nice and cool all through the summer. It's a fantastic bit of forest. What excites me about this palm forest is the recovery since the rats have gone. All these little palms on the ground, if we have a close look at them.
Yeah, have a look at them all.
Yeah, these ones are just seedlings. They're probably only about a year old. The rats used to climb all of these trees and eat every seed, and there just weren't little palms on the forest floor. And now we're, about 4 years after that project, and there's just hundreds, perhaps thousands in front of us here.
It's absolutely thick, isn't it? Just to see that new couple of generations pop up in such a short period of time must be fairly rewarding.
It is, it's amazing.
In terms of conservation, they've done amazing things on the land. They've managed to eradicate rats and mice and bring back bird species. But underwater, it's a little bit harder. You can't quite control the ocean ecosystem like we can on land. And so I feel that we're starting to see the underwater realm start to suffer.
Well, we're in the middle of the Tasman Sea. We have 5 major ocean currents that do converge on Lord Howe Island. We have a number of endemic species that you won't find elsewhere around the island.
2005 we were working on some reefs to the north of Lord Howe called Middleton and Elizabeth, and we were doing surveys for the Australian government. During that time we noticed there was an anemone fish that was very rare up there, and we heard that it was also at Lord Howe Island, and when we got here we found that there was lots of anemone fish here. This is the endemic anemone fish. So we realised that Lord Howe Island was the last remaining stronghold for this species. And then we've just come back every couple of years to monitor those populations, see how they're going, and to learn more about the anemone fish, because that biology and ecology underpins the risk of extinction and how vulnerable a species is.
This season we've seen widespread bleaching in certain species, primarily the temperate species of corals. There is a good chance that we won't have 100% mortality for the corals. They do have quite a resilient nature, and the water around here is cooling down, and we're hoping that a number of the coral species will actually be able to recolonise and survive this event. The issue is, do we have another heat wave next year and the year after and the year after?
You can't have an industrial revolution that has been pumping out carbon dioxide for hundreds of years without having an impact. And that impact we're seeing is primarily in oceans at the moment. And I think this is a major global ecosystem that is telling us, hey, there's something going on, and unless you change the way that you operate on this planet, we are going to continue to lose the ocean as a functioning ecosystem, and we need it to function.
I think as the world becomes more urbanised, people are becoming detached from nature. Every now and then just stop and maybe close your eyes and listen to the sounds of what birds can you hear, what insects can you hear, just shutting the eyes and experience nature.
The ocean is this otherworldly ecosystem that is so full and abundant of life forms and colours and movement, and I have great hope and faith that humanity will turn the tide in terms of looking after nature and embracing the fact that we're part of this system, not just an external factor.
It is possible to create change. The natural environment is very resilient. It's just that we're not giving it any opportunity to be able to do its thing and to repair itself.
We're trialling this new restoration techniques where we can get people involved in a restoration technique that we know works, that you can start new colonies and attract new anemone fish to it, rather than being helpless and saying there's nothing I can do. They can see how their little patch reef that they started up is now saving anemone fishes all over the world.
It is an amazing frontier in that certain things live here that would otherwise live elsewhere.
The great conservation that has been achieved gives inspiration and hope that for the wider world these things can also be a benefit.
I have great hope and faith that us as humans are waking up. We do need to preserve what we have today so that we have it for tomorrow.